Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Intuition Activation Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica, a spiritual medium and intuitive coach, and I'm so excited that you're here to join me for this intuitive development journey. You guys, I'm really excited for this episode. We have a very special guest on the podcast this week. I'm so excited to introduce you to the one and the only Julia Martin. Julia Martin is a manifestation coach, manifestation guru. Like, honestly, anything there is to know about manifestation, Julia is the person to go to. She's a manifestation coach, she's a business coach. She also works to develop manifestation into curriculums that she's selling to different states across the country. She is a powerhouse. She's also the host of the Dream Your Life podcast. And this is a podcast that she has had me be a guest on, I believe, 7 times now. So we have been working together for a couple of years. And she is also the person who I will be collaborating with for her Dream Your Biz program, which I mentioned in last week's episode. And so Julia really is the expert in all things manifestation. And I am so excited to have her come on the show and share with you guys some very specific techniques and ways that we can begin to manifest our dream life. Now, this is a topic that I only gently touched upon throughout this podcast, but we've never done a full episode specifically on manifestation. And so we're going to dive into all of the things that really are the techniques, the tools, the strategies that you need to co-create and build your dream life with the universe. Co-create with the universe. How is it that you call in the things that you desire? What are the steps that you take, and how do you use your intuition and allow the magic to happen? What steps do you take, and where does the universe meet you to help those things come through? And this is really such a magical and beautiful conversation. Julia is also, and she doesn't claim that she is, but I would argue, a very intuitive individual. And we talk a little bit about that and how spirit guides have played a huge role in the manifestations that she has called into her life. And guys, she has called in some really wild and crazy things in her life. And I'm excited for you to hear some of the amazing things that she has managed to make happen in her life while she co creates with the universe. And I hope this episode acts as a bit of inspiration for you, that if she could call on these things using some of these very simple but easy to apply techniques, that you could do that too, and that you could also manifest your dream life. And so I'm really excited for you to hear right from Julia herself all about how is it that we can use our intuition and really call in anything that we are dreaming of and desiring in our lifetime. I also want to remind you guys that Julia's program, the Dream Your Biz program, her 12-week signature program, is starting October 1st. And this is something that I'm collaborating with her on. And in this program, Julia is going to really introduce you to the world of coaching. So if you're really thinking about, maybe I'm not aligned, maybe I'm not in the right career, maybe this is something I need to consider a pivot, and I'm just not sure what that is, I really highly recommend that you join Julia in her 12-week program. She's really going to help you figure out what it is that you're wanting to do, whether it's a service-based business or a coaching business. She really helps you hit the ground running with the strategies, tools, and techniques that you need, not only to build a business and all of the details that go along with that, but also the manifestation and mindset practices that you really need to apply to be successful in any entrepreneurship endeavor. And I'm collaborating with her on this program. I've done it with her through several rounds of her program, where as part of the program, I will be channeling your business guides with you. And so I meet with all of her students at the beginning of the program, and we call in your business guides, and they really tell you, this is your path, this is your purpose, and what does this look like as a career path for you? And we really take this, and the spirit guides really give you the very specific details that you need to run forward. They give you your branding, they sometimes give you your business name, they give you everything that you need to kind of take off. And then you can use Julia's very well planned and well thought out techniques and tools for building a business and apply the things that your spirit guides give to a really proven strategy to help a business take off. And if there's any proof of someone who can make a business happen, Julia's your gal. I mean, she was somebody who was working in corporate herself and made this leap herself. And she's running a really mega successful coaching business now. And so, if there's anyone to learn the tools from, it's definitely her. So, you can learn more about this. And anybody who's coming through me, my podcast listeners, you guys get a really big discount for joining the program. It is a 20% discount if you use the code Spirit Guide, all caps. So, definitely make sure to go and check it out. You can head over to dreamyourlifenow.com/DYB, standing for Dream Your Biz. So, /DYB, and learn a little bit more about the program. But you have to hurry up because the day that this is coming out, you're only a couple days away from the program starting. The program starts October 1st. If you want to get in there, today's the day. You got to look at it and check it out now. You can even set up a call with Julia, a free call to see if the program is right for you. So definitely use the code Spirit Guide, have a conversation with Julia, and make the leap. Follow your intuition and follow your true life's path and purpose. If you're feeling not aligned, you know that there's something else you're supposed to be doing in this life, but you're not sure exactly what that is, this is the program for you. So definitely make sure that you do that. One other announcement that I want to give before I dive into this episode, or we dive into this episode, is that for those of you who have been reaching out to me, that it looks like my schedule is full. You've been trying to get a one-on-one spiritual guidance session with me, and it looks like I'm booked out till the end of the year. I opened up more spaces for you guys. Guys, I have Thursday mornings available. Thursday mornings in EST, but it's a pretty big chunk of time. And so don't hesitate to jump in there. Head over to my website, jessicarachel.co. So not .com, but .co. Link in the show notes for that. And there are way more spots available. I opened up a whole other day that wasn't there before. So definitely make sure to go over and grab your spot if you're kind of wanting to, get to the tail end of 2024 with a bang and make sure that you fulfill your life's purpose, or kind of want to hit the ground running when it comes to 2025. Definitely make sure to do that because spots were filling up, getting close to the end of the year. And I didn't want you guys to have to wait until 2025 to get your spot. So definitely head over to my website and you can book your session. Now there should be a whole lot more spots available. All right, guys. So without further ado, I'm so excited for you to learn from the amazing, the brilliant Julia Martin. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome, Julia, to the Intuition Activation Podcast. I'm so excited to have you here.
So excited too, Jessica. This is we've done this so many times together, but it's so fun to be in this seat on this side of the camera. So thank you so much for having me.
I know, it's so funny. For those of you who don't know, you definitely need to check out Julia's podcast, Dream Your Life podcast. I think I've been on it six,
Seven,
seven times.
seven, seven
Seven
times.
times. So many of you guys probably know her podcast, probably found me through her, which is really funny. But this is the first time that I get to be the one interviewing you. And so I'm really excited to do that. And Julia, you're going to laugh because this is such an intuitive, beautiful, spiritual space. And we talk about all of the really woo-woo things, but can you believe I've never done a full episode on manifestation?
No, that's blasphemy, Jessica.
I know.
What are you doing? No, I'm
I
just kidding.
know. But we needed to have the expert here to talk about it because I don't claim to be a manifestation guru. I've taken some things here, some courses here and there, and like dabbled in it a little bit.
Yeah.
But I can't say that I have all the knowledge. And that's why I'm so excited to have you here because you've been doing this forever. And so I actually really wanted to start for those of us who don't know, and I assume that probably the majority of this audience does know what manifestation is, but I want your definition. Like if you could
Yeah.
what exactly is manifestation?
Manifestation. I'm just going to simplify whatever is coming to me right now, but it is this idea, this concept, that your thoughts and your focus and your beliefs create your reality. Your thoughts become things. So when you really focus on something that you want to call into this 3D reality, into your life, and you believe it's possible for that thing to show up, you can make it happen. And there's so much more to this, but that is that at a high level. Manifestation is this idea that we create our realities through our thoughts and focus and belief.
Okay, that's amazing. And yeah, it really is. Definitely, we're going to dive into all of the details of like the how and how you do that. But I actually am just really curious. What are some of the biggest things you've manifested to date? Like some of your favorite manifestations?
Oh my gosh. I mean, first of all, I should say, and this isn't just for me, this is for all of us. We're always manifesting. I mean,
Okay.
our thoughts and our beliefs are always creating our realities, no matter if we're conscious of them or not. And we can go into subconscious beliefs and all of that, but I don't know. And I think we can talk about this in terms of what have you ever, or what have you intentionally manifested? Like, what have you gone out to intentionally call into your life? Um, I mean, my career, I would say that right now is probably the thing that's top of mind in terms of the relatively biggest manifestation. There were different kind of steps to getting here, but the way that it all ended up happening in the end, I had a podcast which was started as a passion project to talk about manifesting and creating a life and a business and a career that you love. That podcast led me to recognizing and realizing that my purpose is in helping women and coaching people and creating programs around this topic. And I wanted to make it my full-time thing, and I didn't know how I was going to actually make it happen. The cursed how, which we can also talk about later.
Mhm.
You need to let go of the how when you're trying to call something in, when you're trying to intentionally manifest. Um, but what ended up happening is I got really clear and focused on, in this case, a number, a financial sum that I wanted to save, or I wanted to have in my savings that would kind of carry me through starting the business. And it all came in at once, the exact number that I was calling in. And it was through this intentional manifestation, through visualizing it, through focusing on it, through writing it down, through letting go of the how, and through believing that it was possible. And again, that came through, and that allowed me to leave my corporate career and jump into what I'm doing now.
Yeah, that's really amazing, and I mean, I don't know if personally, like, me calling in this career for me, I don't know if it was as intentional, like, through manifestation practices, but
Yeah.
if you go by your definition of, like, your thoughts and beliefs of, like, "I'm gonna make this happen no matter
Yeah.
what,"
Yeah.
I guess you could maybe say the same for me, I don't know.
Oh, 100%. And then, I mean, again, it's like I think there's so many things at play, and I think your intuition is at play in manifesting, because you want to um manifestation is most powerful when it's in alignment with, I think, your intuition, your soul, what you came here to do. So it actually becomes more effortless when it's something that you truly want in your heart. It's actually pretty hard to manifest something that isn't for your highest good. So people always talk about, oh, I manifested, this terrible thing or this terrible thing. And it's like, maybe, and I think there's some truth to that, but a positive, aligned thought and belief, I think, is so much more potent and powerful than a negative one.
Right, yeah. So do you believe that you could also, I mean, unintentionally manifest a negative reality for yourself if you're stewing in that sort of consciousness?
Yeah, and I'm a very, very positive person. I think I was born just to look at the bright side of things. And but if I'm going to be honest, yeah, I do. I think that we can get ourselves stuck in really negative patterns through our negative thoughts and beliefs. i
Mhm.
think it I think life is this self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe your life is going to be difficult and challenging and hard and bad things happen, I think that's exactly what's going to show up.
Mhm. It's almost like you're looking for proof that your thoughts are true, right? So then you
Yeah.
like you said, self-fulfilling prophecy. I heard this really beautiful quote and I can't remember who said it, but he was talking about manifestation. And he said, the universe doesn't give you what you want, it gives you who you are.
Yeah.
And would you say that that's really true?
100%. And
Yeah.
who you are is your thoughts and your beliefs and your energy and your focus, right? And so
Right.
that's what it is. I mean, everything is energy. And if we, maybe this is what I should have touched on in the beginning when you're asking for the definition. I think in this space, manifestation and law of attraction are often synonymous, but
Mhm.
law of attraction simply states that energy attracts like energy. We're made up of energy. Our thoughts have a frequency that can be measured, right? And so this whole phenomenon, this scientifically proven idea that energy attracts like energy, just proves that our thoughts are constantly attracting things. Our emotions create an energy that can be also measured, that has a frequency. Those are attracting things to us. So we're just like this giant magnet that is constantly attracting things based on what we're thinking about, what we believe in, and how we feel.
Mhm. So would you say that we have to be sort of really conscious about how I don't know if like because I feel like we're all entitled to our bad days, right? And that
Oh
like
my
we
gosh,
we
yeah.
experience like our because I find that sometimes when we're new to manifestation or like we're just learning about it, there's sort of this rhetoric of like stay in the high vibe place. And then people
Oh
sort of
yeah, no.
beating themselves up for like having a bad day or for thinking a negative thought. But I don't really think it works that way. I don't think it goes on this roller coaster of like anytime you feel a negative emotion, you manifest something negative, right? So, I mean,
No.
how does that work sort of in the sense that like do you have to sort of stay in this sort of like high vibe cloud or bubble in order to manifest the
No.
things you want? What does that kind of look like?
Yeah, and I feel very strongly about this because I think that's a huge misconception that can be really damaging, actually, because you are not a human being if you don't have negative thoughts. You are
Right.
going to have negative thoughts and you are going to have bad days. And that is part of being a human. I think that's part of the experience. So I think the first thing that I want to mention is that we actually need the bad days. We need the negative thoughts. We need those emotions in order to experience the good days. If it was all sunshine and butterflies, which I think it is on the other side, by the way,
Yeah.
um,
I think
we
so
would
too.
have we wouldn't know what it that real experience of being truly joyful. We need the contrast in order to show us what that is like. So have you ever had a really bad day or been really sick or yeah, we'll just use that. You've been really sick and you've kind of had a bad day and then all of a sudden you wake up the next morning and you're feeling really good in your body. You're not sick anymore, you're healthy. You're feeling really positive, you're feeling hopeful and that is like taken to the next level. It's exacerbated because you know what the other side is like. It's
Yeah.
the same thing with having like I used to always say I feel bad for the people when I was working at Google that would join Google straight out of college because it was such a dynamic and fun and cool environment. And like you kind of need the bad job to understand how incredible this is. Because when I got to Google, I was like, oh my God, I love everything. This is amazing because I had had such crappy jobs, because I had had jobs that felt so unfulfilling with people that were just negative. And so it just made the whole experience of going somewhere like that so much more elevated and exciting. And I think that's what life is. We need the highs, we need the lows, we need the in betweens. We want the whole gamut of emotions to experience it all. And I think we do want to experience it all. Um, so that's part of it. But when it comes to manifesting, well, one, what I mentioned is a positive thought is 100 times more powerful than a negative one.
Right.
Um, and the other part of this is I think that there's a difference between like a negative emotion like sadness or just feeling low or feeling off than of resentment, jealousy, anger, frustration, stress. Those are the feelings, the emotions that I don't think ever serve us in a way of like sitting in them. So
Right.
sadness, yes, we need to process, something we're going through, feel those emotions, sit in that sadness or that feeling of, hopeless, being lost. But if you're sitting in an emotion like jealousy and resentment, that I think just simply does not serve you. So with that, there's a lot of tools to get out of that and to get to a more neutral space. But again, even if you do have those days, it's not going to like change the course of your life. And this is something you talk about a lot, Jessica. It's like we're constantly being guided and pushed back onto the path. Yes, we can manifest in this reality, but I think ultimately if we're manifesting kind of incremental things, whereas we're like the bigger picture, the destiny is kind of like we're constantly being pushed there.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And there's so much to unpack here. And I do want us to get into sort of the breakdown of like, what are the steps to manifestation?
Yeah.
But before we do that, I'm actually really curious. How did this all start for you? Because I don't think you like burst out of the womb going, I'm going to be this manifestation coach, right?
No,
So,
no.
was there sort of like this time in your life that became sort of the jump off point that you decided, like, this is something I need to dive into? Was there an experience you had? Was it a book you read? Like, what is it that kind of started this journey for you?
Yeah. So I was always looking back, I would have never called it this, but in high school for sure, I was a manifester, an intentional manifester. I didn't have a word for it, but what would happen is, and it's so funny because I just reorganized my whole closet, my office yesterday, and I found all my old high school journals, and it was the
Aw.
worst time to do my closet because you know how that is when you find stuff and you're just like, oh my God. So it was a busy day and it was not a good day to do this. But I was a big journaler in high school. And at the end of every entry, I would write down kind of like goals, but it was more like things that I wanted to happen in my life. And I had these little check boxes. I mean, I was literally just rereading them. And what I would do is I remember so vividly, I'd be sitting at my desk and I'd write down, my journal all over the place. Oh, she's being mean and blah, the high school stuff. And then at
Yeah.
the end, I'd say, okay, so this is the grade that I want in this class. This is, the pair of shoes that I want. This is the trip that I want to go on. I want this person to da da da, and like just a whole thing. And then I would close my eyes and I'd imagine these things happening. It was just a little thing that I did.
Okay.
And they all happened. They would all happen. And I remember I kind of thought I was a good goal setter, but I knew there was something else. I knew there was like something else working because it was like the way that things would show up would be too crazy. My friends would all, and my parents to this day, they're just like, you're just so lucky, but you have a knack of making things happen. And I'll just share one, and I've shared this before, but this
Yeah.
was like a big manifestation. I was obsessed with the TV show Friends, obsessed with it in
Oh,
high
me too.
school. And I had a coffee table book that had pictures backstage. And I would do the thing. I would close my eyes and picture myself sitting on the orange couch, talking to Jennifer Aniston, talking to David Schwimmer, watching it being filmed. And I did this over and over and over again. And I remember we were dropping off my sister in college. She went to USC here in LA. And I was 14 years old. And I said, oh my gosh, mom and dad, it's Friday night. I think they're filming Friends. Drop me off at the Warner Brothers studio. I'm going to figure it out. And they're like, we can't drop you out. There were no cell phones or anything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, please just park across the street. I just want to try. Um, I got driven in a golf cart. Long story short, driven in a golf cart backstage. There are hundreds of people who flew in from all over the world waiting in line just to like get a glimpse. I go backstage, sit on the orange couch, watch a whole taping, have a conversation with David Schwimmer, who played Ross. I did not get to meet Jennifer Aniston that time, but did the whole thing. And then I came out, went and saw my parents. They're like, what happened? I'm like, yeah, I went backstage. And they're like, again, you just make these things happen. But it when it happens, like it wasn't like it was so cool, but I just knew that it was going to happen, kind of thing. And then people are like, literally, that's impossible to get a ticket. You need to know like a producer, basically. Those types of things would happen all the time. So anyway, fast forward, graduate from college, and I'm very lost, rock bottom. I ended up getting laid off 3 times over the course of a year and a half. I was just hanging out with the most negative, kind of like victim mentality people. It was, I kept having to borrow money from my parents. And I remember thinking, why is life so hard? Like, what did I do to make this happen? And how could I ever get out of this? Like, I thought I was going to have this like cool, sexy career. And now I have 3 layoffs on my resume and no experience. No one's ever going to want to hire me. And I read this book right here, Infinite Possibilities. Someone gifted it to me.
Mm.
And written by the author, Mike Dooley. And I didn't know anything about him. And I got this book and I read it almost in one sitting, and it introduced manifestation. It introduced this idea that we're creating our reality through our thoughts and beliefs. And if you visualize, and it explains exactly what visualization is, you can make things happen. And for me, Jessica, I was like, oh my God, I know what this is. I've done this. This is the truth. I know this secret. And then I read The Secret, and then I dove into everything. And again, long story short, I was like, I am going to manifest a job at Google, because if I do, all my problems will be solved, because they're just like, riding around on the bikes, drawing on the whiteboards, like getting massages during the day, eating free food. um, and I did. I manifested within 3 months. I got a call from a recruiter. It was a long interview process, which again, knew no one, had no experience. And I got the job, and I was sitting in I remember exactly where I was. It was in El Segundo. I was in a garage, and the recruiter called me, and I just started sobbing, but not because I was moving to San Francisco to start this life. Yes, that was exciting, but it was because I was like, oh my gosh, it works. It works.
Yeah. That's so amazing. And like, as you were telling the story, I'm also thinking about like, it's not a coincidence that somebody handed you that book. Do you know what I
No.
mean? Like, that
Oh,
had to be
totally.
a synchronicity, right? Or
A
like,
hundred
I-
percent. And I can't remember who did. I'm pretty sure it was this girl, Amelia, that I worked with. I don't remember like why she would have done that, if it was my birthday or something. And I feel like I should remember that, but I don't.
yeah. And I don't even know that it matters like who or
Yeah.
how it came into your
Yeah.
life, but I almost,
Yeah.
to me, that's very clearly like your spirit guides at work in the background. Like, we
Oh,
have to
yeah.
get her on her path. Like, we have to put this in her way, because
Yeah.
even for my story, right? Like, I didn't know what a spirit guide was. And it was just somebody making an offhanded comment at a meditation class saying, why don't you ask
Hmm.
your spirit guides? And me going, my what? Right. And if I hadn't had that one random conversation, I wouldn't have gone down this path at all. And if somebody didn't just randomly hand you that book, right, where
Yeah.
would you be? So it's so crazy to think like sometimes, there's when we're supposed the things that we're supposed to do, there's always these sort of signs and
Oh,
synchronicities.
yeah.
They're always showing up and kind of guiding us on that
Oh,
path.
yeah. Oh, yeah. And I see that. I still, that shows up for me still today. Like I'll see it, but now I kind of know. I'm like, okay, I need to follow this thing. Clearly, there's someone wants me to see it, because it keeps popping up in my life, or it feels like there's some significance here. And that's something that I really help my clients with too, is like, look for the patterns or the things or like the synchronicities, because there's a reason those are showing up for you right now.
Yeah.
Follow that, see where that leads.
Intuition really does play a big role in the manifestation process. And I'm even thinking like in your story when you talked about go like just knowing you needed to go that night to the friend set. I mean,
Oh,
something
yeah.
just like how did you just know that it had to be that day, right? There
Well,
must have
I mean, yeah, yeah,
been a
yeah,
download, right? I mean, I'm sure you knew that's when they were filming, but like why that Friday and not a different one, right?
yeah.
Like why did
Well,
you
the
know?
funny part is that I did it again, and I got backstage again 1 year later. And my parents were like, at that point, I've never shared this, but my parents were like, there's no way you can do it again. The first one was a one-off.
Mhm.
Like, this is crazy. It's actually probably highly illegal what you're doing, against the law. And that we would be so bad as parents. And I'm like, trust me, it's gonna happen again. And I remember we were like sitting with my uncle, and he's like, she's gonna do it again. She is. And my parents were like, I know she is. And I did. And I went backstage again, watched a full other taping backstage. But
That's
yeah,
so
there are definitely intuition pieces of that come through in every manifestation. It's like it's the idea. I think it's the idea to do it in the first place.
Right? Like, it just comes
Yeah.
through, like, be in this place at this time, like, why at that moment did you feel
Yeah.
compelled to do that, right? So
Yeah.
there was
Yeah.
probably something working with you in the background as well. That's my
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
So I do really want to unpack like the big thing here, which is, and I know you have a beautiful method called the dreams method for how to manifest, but I know that there's also a million other ways that you can manifest. So I would love for you to kind of break it down for us. Give us the
Yeah.
manifestation process. Somebody who's never done this before, where do we even begin? What does this look like? Can you give us like a step by step plan of how we could go about manifesting something we want?
Absolutely. And um, what I love about this is, well, first of all, um, I'm all about the steps. I like the tactics, and I'm very like right, kind of like split in between right brain, left brain, because I'm very structured and strategic, but I like to bring in the feminine and the intuition and my and manifesting and spirituality. But I think when you can bring the two together, um, I mean, that's what I think how we're supposed to manifest on this 3D reality. We need both. So I like a structured approach to manifesting that you can start with, and then you just make it your own.
Mhm.
And so that's why I created the dreams framework, which was another intuition thing, because I was like, I want a framework. I put it out there. I'm like, I actually know, Jessica, this was a reading that I did with you,
Oh.
and my spirit guide said, so I was feeling, I had run my first retreat, and I was like really down on myself because I had a little bit of feedback that was like, it wasn't even negative feedback. It was like kind of some constructive feedback, but I was just all in my head about it. And in the retreat, I had really sat down with every single person trying to like work through their limiting beliefs. And my spirit guide said, you actually did a really great job, but you're not meant in a retreat setting or like in a big group setting. You're not actually meant to do that individually. You're going to have a framework, you're going to have a method to manifesting, and you're going to use that in your programs and in your curriculums and everything like that. And I was like, I'm going to have a framework. Okay, I don't even know what that means, a framework, because I just kind of like was like, this is how you do it. But
Mhm.
then I was on a run, and I was like, I think I do want my own method, because people keep asking me this question right here: give me the steps to manifesting. And it came all at once. And then I was like, oh my gosh, it spells dreams, the acronym dreams. This is too good. This is meant to be, because I love something that fits nicely with a little bow like that. But so this
Perfectly
is the
branded.
dreams. Yeah. And this is really truly all my steps. The first one, D, is to declare what you want. And I think a lot of people are like, okay, that's obvious. But what I think is so interesting, Jessica, is that this is actually the step that trips people up the most.
Hmm.
People know what they don't want. People are very clear. I don't like my job. I don't like my relationship. I don't like my body. I don't like this, this, and this. And that's what we're putting out. That becomes the energy, the frequency that we're attracting back to us. So declaring what you do want is actually thinking about, what do I want to call in? What do I want to experience? How do I want to feel? And putting that out there. And whenever you're going to the, I don't like this, it's no, what do you like? What do you want? This is also hard because a lot of people don't know what they want. They don't know what they want to do. They don't know where they want to live. They don't know who they want to be with. So this step does require work in terms of, get really clear on the life that you desire, on the things that you want to call in.
Yeah.
And there's a few ways to do this. And I'll give this to you, Jessica, too. I have a little workbook that walks you through this. But you want to think about not just, an amount of money, which is another thing that people think that they want, but in reality, they don't want the amount of money. They want how they think the money is going to make them feel.
Right.
They don't want just any old relationship. They want a partnership that is going to be mutually supportive and loving. And so, a big part of declaring what you want is also really connecting to how you want to feel. Um, so that's the first step, right? Declare it. Do you want to do it with me right now? Do you have anything that like you want to feel? It doesn't have to be something like where you're super vulnerable, but maybe just like one thing that you're
Ah,
calling in.
this is a crazy thing that I didn't know I wanted until my spirit guide told me it's going to happen, and now I want
Oh,
it.
what? What?
This came through last week. Okay. I was connecting with my guides and I have seen this vision before, and they keep showing me this vision. I've always wondered what it was. And I'll tell you the vision first and I'll tell you what the manifestation
Yeah.
is. The vision was, and it's every time I do a meditation, when you know those like future self meditations that you do.
Yeah.
So I was
Yeah.
doing like a future self meditation, just seeing like what my future looks like, right?
Hmm.
And I kept seeing this vision. First of all, me pregnant again with another baby, with my husband in this tropical rainforest in this beautiful home in Costa Rica. And I was like, what is that? And my guides have now told me, like, oh, you're going to move there. You're going to take your family and you're going to move to Costa Rica. You're going to retire your husband and move to Costa Rica. And that's what we've been putting on the radar recently. So that's what we're calling in.
Oh my gosh. Okay, first of all, I just had that vision too for you. I
Right?
can see it. Also, Costa Rica, there's something about the energy. That's like where all the manifestation people go and live.
And all the spiritual
And all
psychics
the
and all,
spiritual. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I
We
know.
all end up there
Um,
somehow. So,
I know. Oh my gosh, how cool.
cool,
Okay, so
right?
let's just go through this framework just for fun.
Okay.
If this is like, let's say that this was something you really wanted to call in like immediately. I
Okay.
would say that put a big focus on all of these steps. So the first is, well, you got clear on Costa Rica. Why? What is the feeling there? That is the most important thing, because remember, we manifest from how we feel, not just our thoughts. So
Mhm.
what is the feeling when you think about yourself there pregnant in the rainforest with the two little kids running around and your
Yeah.
husband laying in a hammock or whatever it is?
Right. Definitely this feeling of peace, this
Mm,
feeling of family time, right? Where we just have,
yeah.
like time moving a little bit slower. Uh,
Yeah.
Definitely this feeling of, I mean, I don't know if this is a feeling more than a vision of just getting to be outside all the time versus here in
Mm-hmm.
Canada, like half the year we can't be.
Yeah. Warmth.
Warmth, that's definitely it. Yeah. So definitely that sort of this feeling of
Okay.
just like time moving slower and just yeah, living really in the present moment. Yeah.
Ooh, peaceful, present, warm, cocooned up with your family. Okay, so when you think about it, and we're going to get to the envisioning stage, like that's the part, right? It's not how you're going to get there. It's definitely not the plane ride. It's definitely not like, the program that you're going to sell out that's going to get you. It's that. It's the feeling, it's the vision in your home, it's being outside, it's the sounds, it's the smells, it's all of that.
Yeah.
So that's you putting it out there. The
Okay.
next step is R for reframe. This goes back to what we were talking about before, is we're constantly manifesting from our beliefs, whether they're conscious or not. And most of the time, 95% of our beliefs are subconscious, meaning we're not aware of them. And most of those beliefs were formed from a very young age. Some people say 5 and below. But when you think about me saying, okay, you're going to move there in 3 years, what are some of the reasons that you're going to tell yourself right now that it's not possible?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that definitely comes up with like that can't happen that soon, right? Like
Okay, that soon? Why?
why? Well, because I would need to get to a place where I had to retire my husband because we rely a lot on his income as well. And his
Hmm.
job is tied here.
So financial, we can't afford
Financial.
it.
Can afford it. Um, I don't know. In my head, I'm thinking there's a lot of barriers to moving countries. Like there's got to be a lot of red tape around that, right?
Red tape to moving, and you've just dealt with a lot of stuff with your kids' passports and
Oh,
stuff. So
I know.
that's probably top of mind for you too.
Yeah, so those are the big ones. And then yeah, like even just like logistics, like how do you know where is it gonna feel like home or are we gonna feel like fish out of water in a new country that doesn't speak English, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
what's that gonna be like? And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what this step is you write all those things down.
Okay.
to the point where you can't think of anything else that is holding you back.
Okay.
Even like, I don't know where I would put the kids in school.
Mm.
Like I,
Yeah.
so every single thing. And I'll just give you an example with this because when I first came up with this framework, I wanted to share about it on the podcast. And I was like, I want to be vulnerable and talk about something that I'm calling in that I haven't called in yet, that I
Mm.
haven't manifested, that I have tried to manifest and isn't happening yet.
Yeah.
And the thing for me was getting Mike Dooley on my podcast.
I remember
And
what happened.
yeah, and Jess, okay, so this is the guy who changed my life, right? I read the book Infinite Possibilities and my whole life changed. And I just felt like if I could and I talked about him on the podcast all the time because I would talk about his books. I have every single one of his books. In fact, I'm in 6 days, I'm getting his newest book, which I'm so excited about. Um, of course, I'm always on the list and I buy it as soon as it's like pre-release, but
That's amazing.
this is a teacher in my life that it was just had such a profound impact. I was like, if I can have him on the podcast, that's bigger to me than like anyone, the president. Well, not I don't know. You know what I mean?
It's like your
So
celebrity to
it's
me.
my
Right.
celebrity.
Yeah.
And I had tried everything. I had done all the masculine, like I sent him and everyone he knew an email. I probably sent him 35 DMs. I was like, not trying to be annoying, but I would write it. I tagged him in everything on Instagram, tagged him in stories. I commented on his stories. I was like, I don't know how to reach this man. I tried to find his brother because his brother's in the spiritual space, followed him. I was like, maybe if I write him a letter. I mean, I was like, I'm out of the ways to contact him. I don't know. And then I got a response from his team that was basically like, thank you. This is enough. Like,
Oh, really?
we're not, well, it was kind of like, oh, he's too busy.
Yeah.
They were like, he has too many things on his plate because I had asked, I would love to have him on the podcast. I even was like, I'll help you monetize your websites because I have the experience with advertising and nothing was working. So
Mhm.
on this episode, I'm like, here's the framework. This is what I want. I want Mike Dooley in the podcast for all these reasons. This is how it's going to make me feel. And I went through all of my limiting beliefs. So um, I was like, he's too busy. I'm too annoying at this point. I have no other way of contacting him. One by one by one. And this reframe, I had to go through all of these stories, these beliefs that I had around why he wouldn't come on. So for you, all those things you just said too, those are the things that are blocking your manifestation from coming.
Okay.
We want to believe with all our heart that it's possible. So one by one, what I did is I was like, okay, I'm too annoying. And I'm like, I'm not asking, him to wire me money. I'm asking to promote him on my podcast that has, hundreds of thousands of listens and downloads and an aligned audience. Like, this is free marketing. I'm like, okay, I'm reframing that one and I'm good with it. He's too busy. And I was like, we're all busy. We're all busy, but you can make time, you make time for the things that you care about or are important to you. And if he finds that this is valuable and he sees how much I care, he'll make time for it. Like, he'll make time for it. And then again, one by one, until I had exhausted all my beliefs. And I'm like, I feel really good about this, actually. Like,
Mhm.
there's no resistance anymore. And what I had realized is I had so much resistance to having him on. I had so much resistance. Um, and so for you, it's like those beliefs. So the let's just use the logistics one.
Mhm.
How can you reframe that one?
So I was even thinking about it as you were sharing. I'm thinking like maybe I probably have to do some research. Like I'm telling myself that this is going to be so hard, but maybe if I look into it and I talk to other people who have done it or even see like is it
Yeah,
really that hard? Like maybe it's only two things. Maybe you just apply for, residency or something. Like
yeah,
maybe it's not that hard and I'm thinking it's bigger than it is. So I'm thinking maybe
yeah.
research.
A little research. I think talking to people who are there,
Right.
put that out there as the intention and see who comes into your life, right? And having a conversation. So yeah, and then what? And then the financial piece, like we won't be able to afford it. How do you reframe that?
Oh man, I mean, part of me wants to be like set ever the optimist and be like, we can't afford not to. But I also think that like, technically cost of living there is easier than it is here. So it's actually more affordable to be there. And maybe we only need the one income when we're there.
There you go. There
So
you go. And
yeah.
it's like, then go back it up with some evidence.
Mhm.
Again, either talking to someone who's there or do the research on the cost of living, and also recognize, okay, look how fast your business has grown in 1 year, in two
Oh,
years.
yeah. Yeah.
And it only gets easier in this industry, right? It like, as your audience grows, your impact and your income grow, grows at an even faster rate. So why don't you look at that too? Like, you have no idea where you're going to be in a year. So those are the types of things, and you write it down, and that's the reframe. And this is not like a one and done, I'm going to reframe my belief and then it's not there.
Mhm.
It's practicing it. So when you're thinking about Costa Rica, you get the vision again from your guides, and then you're like, oh, but it's going to be too hard. Nope, I'm resourceful. I can make this happen. It's not that hard. There's thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people in my kind of position who have made the move. And if they can do it, I can do it. Right. Or the financial thing, I don't know if we can afford it. Cost of living is lower. Um, my business is growing. We can absolutely afford a move like this. I believe that it's definitely possible. And it's
Mhm.
telling yourself over and over and over. And what you're actually doing is rewiring your brain. This is science.
Right.
This has been proven. Neuroplasticity is real. So
Right.
as we tell ourselves new beliefs, new neural pathways are being formed. And then those old faulty beliefs that are telling us that we can't, because by the way, anything is possible, those start to go away. So this whole process, and some people, this is where affirmations come in, and you can say you don't believe in affirmations or not, but the whole idea is, if you continue repeating a belief to yourself or something that you want to believe, whether it's an affirmation or a new story, that is going to start to ingrain in your mind and become part of your subconscious.
Yeah.
And so with the Mike Dooley thing, I just remember, like, I was doing this process, and then even a couple days later, I'm just like, oh, I don't even know. Like, he's not gonna be able to. Nope. Reframed it right in the moment. People make time for the things that they want to prioritize.
Mhm.
Anybody has time. I mean, if Jeff Bezos has time to like go and do all the things while running Amazon, like, we have time to jump on a podcast for 45 minutes.
Right.
um, okay, so that's the reframe. Then we go into envision. And again, with the reframe, you want to make sure every reason why it won't happen, you've written down, and you've reframed with either an affirmation or counter evidence or a new belief that you really do believe. You're not trying to, this is actually really important. You're not trying to just like tell yourself a new belief that you don't believe. Like, because I think that can also be psychologically damaging. For example, if you're like, I am rich and I am successful, and you're not believing that you're rich and successful, and then you're just saying that one instead,
Yeah.
that does not work,
Right.
because you want to tell yourself a new belief that you actually believe, that you can actually like sink your teeth into and be like, okay, no, this one feels right. So this step is, you want to take some time to be thoughtful about the reframe. um
Yeah, it's
Also,
almost
if you
like a
need, yeah.
pattern interrupt, kind of like you see the negative thought that's kind of been a pattern for you, and you stop it and change it to something that you can actually believe is true on the other side.
Exactly.
Okay.
And if you need help, you can use ChatGPT. Like, say this, which I think is kind of silly, but it
No,
actually works.
that's
Like,
right.
this is my, my limiting belief around, this is my goal, this is my limiting belief. Help me come up with a reframe or affirmations around this. See what they do, see what
Oh my
they
god,
offer.
that is the best hack ever. I love that.
um, okay, so then we go into E for envision. This is where visualization comes in. And this, I think, is if you, oh, I get asked a lot, like, what is the most powerful manifestation practice? And I think it's visualization.
Okay.
Visualizing yourself having achieved or experiencing the thing that you're calling in. So for you, it's closing your eyes and being in Costa Rica.
Mhm.
And for me, it was, you know, seeing the Zoom and seeing Mike Dooley is in the waiting room and feeling what it would feel like to have like the butterflies, the excitement, you going, oh, the peace, the warmth, playing it out in your head. You can change it up every time if you want. Maybe sometimes you're outside in your backyard. Maybe sometimes you're frolicking in the rainforest. Maybe you're making a home cooked meal and you're smelling the what you're making and the kids are playing nicely on the floor next to you. Whatever it is, you can change it up. And that's the whole fun part of this. It doesn't have to be the same thing. Let
Oh,
it be a little daydream.
yeah.
But I think one of the most important parts of this is to put yourself like almost like in the can like it's a first person. So you see your hands cooking or
Oh,
rubbing your belly or instead of watching it kind of like a movie. I
right.
like to be in the driver's seat. So if you're calling in a new car, you're actually driving the car, shifting it into park, walking outside and seeing it from that perspective. I
Okay.
think can be really powerful. And just have fun with it and really attach to the feeling of it all. The feeling, the feeling, the feeling. I think when we do this, I mean, we're literally magnetizing that vision towards us. And there have been so many moments, Jessica, in my life where I'll be standing somewhere or like walking up. This just happened to me in Hawaii. I was speaking to a bunch of teachers and students about our new curriculum, and I'm on the stage talking, and I'm leading everyone through a visualization, and I'm like, I visualized this moment
Wow.
exactly like this, and it was this almost exact even like the way that like there was someone standing in the back and then there were people in the front like this, like I had pictured it so many times, and this happens to me all the time with
Wow.
visualization. So that's the envisioning step. And people always ask how often, how long. Don't go overboard. Like this, we don't want it to feel like work, but I would say if you can do it a couple of minutes a day, like maybe 2 or 3 times a week,
Yeah.
that's totally enough.
Okay.
Nothing more than, not more than 5 minutes at a
Yeah.
time.
And I guess I just want to add in that because when you're saying like it feels like when it actually comes through and you feel like you've actually seen it, I almost wonder if there's like something to be said about like there's a version of yourself who's already achieved this
Oh,
and
yeah.
you're connecting to that version of yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's almost like
Yeah.
same way we can connect to our past lives, we can connect to our future selves, right? And so you see
100.
is
Yeah,
also an intuitive practice essentially.
totally. And I mean, I just did record a podcast on this because uh, this sometimes feels very advanced manifesting for some people who are just like give me the basics. But
Mhm.
I do believe that in the quantum, all potentials exist,
Yeah.
all future versions of yourself. So when you are visualizing, I do think you're connecting with that version of yourself that has it or is it experiencing or achieving it.
Yeah.
Um,
No,
there's
it's
so much there too.
yeah.
But
I mean, we talked about this, I think, on your podcast recently, where it's sort of like when we ask our spirit guides who have access to our past, present, future selves,
yeah,
right? And we're faced with a decision, right? Do I do choice A or choice B? Your spirit guides can show you the outcome of both of those choices because they
yeah,
both exist, right?
yes,
So
yes,
the only reason we can see that, right, through connecting to our intuition is because both of those roads have already been gone down in some way, right? And
yeah,
they're all existing at once. So then it's sort of a question of which one do you want to go to, right? It's already
100%.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually, so I recorded a future you visualization exercise, or visualization, and people are loving it. So I can, you can throw it in the show notes if you want. And I would
Oh,
love for
that'd
you
be
to try
great.
it too, Jessica. It's
Yeah.
really cool because it's a little bit different because it's not actually you're meeting your future self.
Okay.
in this exercise, and you're going up to her or him and you're speaking to them and you're seeing what comes in, but it's a really cool experience because you can kind of feel their energy. And then you can usually at towards the end, I take you through like, she's showing you through the house and where she is, and you're picking up on certain things. And then you listen and she shares something with you.
Oh,
And
wow.
I've had so many people email me since I've put this out there, like, oh my God, I got such an incredibly profound message from my future self.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
that's
So
beautiful.
anyway,
I love
um, yeah,
it.
that's envisioning, and then we go into aligning your energy. That's A. And
Okay.
aligning your energy, you could also call it acting as if, but this is where you want to align your energy with that version of you that has what you're calling in. So peaceful, warm, loving, freedom. How do you start to embody that now?
Mm,
What kinds of environments can you put yourself in now that will allow you to feel that, you know?
yeah.
Um, it's also, I think there's two parts to this step, but it's like if you knew that you were going to be there next year, what would you start having to do right now? Like what are those steps that if you were like, okay, I'm gonna move, you'd probably have to do some research right now. You'd
Yeah.
probably have to figure out like, what are you gonna do with your stuff?
That was my first thought. I was like, man, I'm gonna have to declutter a little.
Declutter, maybe look into storage facilities, or if you're gonna give things away.
Yeah.
I would probably look into schools, or if you're gonna homeschool, what does that look like? Um, all the things that if someone's like, okay, you're moving in 6 months, Jessica, you'd be
Yeah.
like, oh gosh, okay, there's a lot that I need to actually do.
Uh-huh.
That's an energy too.
Right.
Like start preparing now. This is they always share this is not an original one, but it's like if you're calling in love or partnership, clear out a drawer for that person in the bathroom, right?
Aw.
Sleep on one side of the bed. Don't, take up the entire bed. They're going to need somewhere to sleep. Make room in your closet.
Yeah.
Start preparing and acting as if this person is going to come into your life.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's really beautiful. And there is something to be said about, and I've experienced this in my own sort of manifestation practices as well, where there's sort of this idea of like, even if you just take like the first few steps, right, the rest starts to come in afterwards.
Yeah.
You do have to kind of stake your claim of like, no, I'm going after this. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
And it's not just, I feel called to start a podcast. I'm going to buy the microphone because that microphone might sit in your closet for a year. Buy the microphone, get the software, learn how to do it, and record your first episode.
right. Right.
Like I think that's the other part is people are like, well, I did the first step. And it's like, well, no, there's an energy to it. There's a belief that you're going to follow through. And that's what we're trying to tap into. This like, I am going to make this, like I am on the path to making this thing happen. And I'm gonna put in, the first 10, 20%, and then let the universe or my guides or whatever help me with the rest.
Okay, beautiful. I love that. So what's
Yeah.
M? I'm curious.
Okay. M is
Like
M
the
is make
name.
moves. So we
Oh,
live in a 3D reality. So we got to make moves. We got to knock on doors. We got to like take action, take inspired action. I
okay.
like inspired action more than just take action because we're not just trying to do a million things to do a million things. We want it to feel really aligned. So for you, what is the next thing that feels really aligned?
Yeah. Well, I have a friend who just bought a house there. So I feel like
Perfect.
I need to reach out to her and be like, how did you do that?
Perfect. That is a perfect example because also that might lead to something that she might introduce you to someone who's like, hey, I need to sublease my place, will you come in? And then it's all seamless. Or they want to move to Canada and you do a house swap, like who knows?
Yeah.
um so that's a perfect example for me. My inspired action with Mike Dooley was actually putting out that podcast and telling people, declaring it, putting it out there. and seeing, does anyone know Mike Dooley? Like that's my inspired action is I'm just gonna do it, even though in a lot of ways the fear is I'm gonna put this out there and it's not gonna happen and then I'm gonna look like a fool. But I'm like, no, if I really believe that this was gonna happen, this is what I would do, and I'm gonna do it. So that's the making moves. And then it was the dream framework, and then I realized there's a really important step that was missing. So I added the S, which is dreams, which is surrender. And
Oh,
this is
yeah.
not give up at
Mm-mm.
all.
No.
This is surrender to when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, who needs to be involved. All the little details don't matter. That we need to let go of. And we need to believe, we want to believe that we put it out there, we've held on to the vision, we're visualizing it, we're taking action. It will happen in divine timing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's, I think, also a hard step for people because we want to control the outcome and we want to control how it happens. And 90% of the time or more, Jessica, it doesn't happen in a way you think it's going to happen. It just
Yeah.
doesn't.
No, it's always like this way that you never could have thought of or dreamed of yourself, right?
Yeah,
It was like this
exactly.
magical thing that I never would have thought of, then followed by this step. And it's like, I couldn't have dreamt that up myself, right?
No, no. So what happened with me is I released this podcast episode.
Mm-hmm.
3 days later, I get an email. It's from it's from Mike Dooley's like the domain, but it's not his, I'm on all his lists and it's not his list. It's like a first name kind of thing.
Mm.
And I'm like, what? I open it and it's like, hey Julia, I love all the enthusiasm. I would love to be on your podcast. Let's do it, Mike. And I
What?
was like, someone's messing with me. Someone is messing with me. Like, no way. And I reply, and I'm like, I would love to have, I'm just like, I would love to have you on when we do it. And he adds his assistant. We get it on the calendar. I mean, it all happened so quickly. So, and I'm already prepared, by the way. I'd already written all my questions. So this was like,
Oh
this
my
was the
God.
acting as if we record I actually took a picture of it. So I do it on Zoom and as I'm waiting, he's in the waiting room. He comes early, like 5 minutes early, which I'm so glad I was on. And it says Mike Dooley's in the waiting room. And I took a picture because I'm like, this is the moment that I visualized. I had the butterflies, I had the whole thing. And I get
Wow.
on, and we had the most beautiful conversation. Um, One of my questions was to ask how he like decided to, email me. And I forgot to ask him.
Oh
So
no,
I
'cause I was
still
gonna say, what's the how? How did he find you in the end?
I don't know, but I don't think I'm intended to know.
Yeah.
Like I
I
just
know.
don't think I am. It's magic.
Oh, that is
Um
cool.
yeah, so it works. It works even for the things that feel so big.
Yeah, and I definitely encourage everybody to go back and listen to that episode. I listened to it a few times because it
You
was
did.
I
Oh.
did. I mean, first of all, like he's so compelling. Like I see why he's your idol. And
He's the
just the things he
cutest
says.
person ever,
Mhm.
too.
And
He's
he
just like
also is
so
really
sweet.
intuitive. So, like
Oh
the way
yeah.
he talks about, like it's just everything that we talk about here on this podcast too. So you
Yeah.
turned me on to his stuff too.
Oh yeah, I mean, and his whole thing right now, I mean, he brings in channels from all over the world. His whole like he's moved much more into channeling. All his books are he partners with. Do you know Sarah Landon?
I do. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so he partners with her. So he's big into spirit guides and channeling and
Wow. Yeah. So definitely go and listen to that conversation on Julia's podcast.
yeah.
And go check out Mike Dooley. He's very cool. Oh my goodness. Well, you definitely broke it down for us. It's amazing. And I really love having that framework because it's like you have the steps, you can follow them, you like know what
Yeah.
you can do. And then in that framework, the magic can kind of come in, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's one question that I wouldn't be, it wouldn't be a intuition activation podcast if I didn't ask you this,
Yeah.
which is how has either, I mean, we can call this your intuition, but I also want to call it your spirit guides. But How have they played a role in your manifestations? Have there ever been a time where your spirit guide told you to do something or show up, or and your intuition maybe told you to do something and be somewhere, and that's how a manifestation came through and you didn't know why you got that advice? Or like, when did your spirit guides play a role in your manifestations?
Well, I feel like they're always playing a role, right? I mean, I just feel like it's um I mean, I gave the example of the framework and this idea. They were just really like, you're not really intended to um do private coaching forever, even though you're really good at it. Like like, I see you on stages, I see you doing like big things. And that really pushed me to do much more of the speaking and like big retreats and focus on the curriculum, which is reaching hundreds of thousands of people instead of just one-on-one. That's a big one. I think this is so something with my intuition. This is kind of interesting, and this is new, but because this is not something that I intentionally manifested at all, but it was more of like an intuitive feeling. So basically, we have these curriculums that we've created. I have a business partner, and we teach mindset manifestation, also preparing yourself for your career. So professional skills, entrepreneurship, financial literacy. We work directly with the state of Hawaii, who contracts us to create the programs and get them into high schools. We had we're connected to someone who was did ran all the education in the prison system. And my business partner and I were kind of like, oh, we don't really like have a place there. Like that doesn't feel appropriate. Like we don't have experience. Um there's something that just like I have no business being in that space, like. And but there was something that was just like, no, but why? You should. Like, I kept thinking, isn't this exactly aren't these the people who need this more than anyone, to have hope for the future, to create a vision for their lives, to learn the professional skills to make them successful once they leave prison. And I was just like, I feel like we need to do this. Like, I think we really need, even though it's not really our brand, and it's not like, I do not think I'm not going to be the face of this or anything. I want to create this. And anyway, that led to us landing one of our biggest contracts. We're building a curriculum. We're in the middle of it right now for all of the prisons across the state of Hawaii. And it feels so right. And it feels so aligned. We're getting into a prison in Arizona. We got introduced to San Quentin. Like, there's all these things that are happening that I would have never, Jessica, in a million years sat down and been like, this is the vision. This is what I'm going to manifest. But
Right.
it was something that felt so intuitively right.
Right. And that's what I also think, that like, this is what I'm discovering even for myself and in my own manifestations, even with my own example of Costa Rica. Like, sometimes your spirit guides tell you what is coming your way before you're ready for it. And sometimes, like,
Yeah.
it's almost like you
Yeah.
didn't know you wanted it until they told you that you needed
Yeah. Yeah.
it. Right. So they
Yeah.
kind of come in at the beginning of like, did you picture this for yourself? Because this is actually really aligned. Right. And
Yeah.
then they also come in other, like, during the manifestation process, where those signs, those synchronicities, those intuitive hits of like, do this, be here, be there,
Yeah.
talk to
Oh
this
yeah.
person, right? They kind of help in the process as well. But I find that they do play a really big role in giving you that initial desire or that initial
Yeah.
vision, right? I
Yeah.
never, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, do you want to move to Costa Rica? I'd been like, no, why? Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, it kept coming up through meditations, and I'm seeing this vision and talking to friends who are moving there, and suddenly it's coming through
Yeah.
after my guides started telling me to consider this, right?
Mhm.
It wasn't even in my mind before. And then even when I talk to clients, right? Julia, this happens all the time. And you've had a lot of people give you this same feedback, is they'll have a session with me, and at first their guides tell them something that feels so far off from who they are
Yeah.
in the moment, right? They're like,
Yeah.
my guide is telling me I'm gonna be like a business coach, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm in corporate, like, why would I be doing
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
And then it always happens like a year later. And
Yeah.
you're like, I didn't dream about that for myself, but now it's all I want to be doing, right?
Mhm.
So it's almost like your
Yeah.
guides tell you what you need before you're ready to hear it. They plant the seed a
Totally.
little bit.
Totally. It's so cool. And we live in such a magical universe. And that's what also just excites me about being alive, the gift of this life and
Yeah.
discovering things like this and then also experiencing, like we were saying before, the challenges and the heartbreak and the highs and the lows. Like, ah, what a gift it is to be living in this point in time on this planet.
Yeah. Oh, it's so beautiful. Well, I do have one last question for you.
Yeah.
We kind of wrap this up and talk a little bit about the program we're doing together.
Yeah.
But, I know that you claim I mean, we've known each other for a couple of years now, and you always claimed that you're not that intuitive or that maybe you don't do what I do. But I'd like to argue the opposite, that you actually do have quite a few intuitive downloads all the time. And I want you to share your experience of this because I think there's a lot of listeners out there who kind of feel the same way. They're kind of like, I'm not special. I'm not like Jessica. I can't
Yeah.
pull in my guides the same way. But you, Julia, you've had so many intuitive downloads come through. And I would love for you to share how you've started to kind of recognize when those intuitive downloads are coming through, or more importantly, how it is that you cultivate an experience where they can come through. So, what do you do to help connect to your intuition?
Um, I think I can just really simply boil it down to just trusting what comes in. You've helped me with that a lot. I still don't and when I say, yeah, I mean, and again, I know that there's different clairs and stuff. I don't see anything. I don't hear anything. I've always kind of wished I could like see my spirit guide and then I could talk to him or like it would be kind of like a 3D type of thing. That's not what happens at all. But what I guess I'm claircognizant, so things just come in, but it feels like my own thoughts. And what you've helped me do is really just trust it as soon as it comes in. Just yesterday. So we're my business partner and I are creating also at the same time with this corrections curriculum, we're creating a special ed version and we're creating a version that's also for severe mental disabilities.
Okay.
And I don't know like we were talking on the phone. I'm like, we need to create a guide for the parents. Like, we just need a guide for the parents. And she's like, why? What the, our contract doesn't say we need a guide for the parents. And like, why? And I'm just like, I don't know, but we need a guide for the parents. And that's a perfect example. I don't know why, but
Yeah.
I'm trusting it. And it was so clear. I see the parents with their guide working with their students. I think it's going to be important for them to have it with the teachers also having their own guide. But that's all I can say is like it was just a hit, a download, and I've been doing this enough where when I trust it and move with it, it always pays off. So I think that for me is it. It's like I get the idea and I trust that it's my intuition and I move with it.
Yeah, and that's really sort of a typical experience for a claircognizant is like, I don't know how I know this. I just know it to be
Yeah.
true. And then it's again, it's really that trusting piece. And then it proves to be, I mean, you prove to yourself over time that when you follow those things and they always
Yeah.
work out, that you learn that you have to trust them. Right.
Yeah.
And so you kind
Yeah.
of just know that was a download and it worked out. So I have to keep doing that.
Exactly.
And then the other
Exactly.
thing that I say is that, like, for you also, I'm sure when the idea comes through, it probably lights you up a little bit. You feel so
Yeah.
compelled to speak it out loud.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Like it just, oh, you know what? I thought this quote, I think this quote is just the best. And I follow Abraham Hicks. I might have told you this, but I was at the last Abraham Hicks seminar. Abraham Hicks is channeled by Esther Hicks, and it's this entity. And just, I mean, if you are looking for just profound guidance on your life, read Ask and It Is Given or any Abraham Hicks books. But anyway, she's Esther standing there and she's like, someone was asking about, how do we become a good parent and how do we blah, blah, blah. And she's like, okay, Abraham has something to share. And if there's one thing you can take away from this whole entire seminar, it's this. And so I'm like, oh my God, pen and paper ready. And she goes, or they say, if it feels like a good idea, it's a really good idea.
Mm.
That's it. So
Yeah,
I've told my kids this. I'm like, if it feels like a good idea, it's a really good idea. And I tell myself that if it feels like a good idea, it's a really good idea.
I love that. I love that. And it's so true because it's really connecting to that instinct, that gut feeling that it's
Yeah.
lighting my body up, literally a feeling, right? That
Yeah.
it's good, right? Not just
Yeah.
a logicking, like, yeah, I guess on the pros and con list, it's a good idea.
Right, right, right.
It's like, I know it's a good idea because it felt good before I started analyzing it.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh, that's so
Exactly.
beautiful. Well, I think a lot of people are gonna really be able to take that to heart and use that as their tool in developing their intuition. So,
Good.
Julia, this has been so beautiful. But before we go, we have I announced this last week on the podcast, and you and I are working together. You have a program that is launching, Dream Your Biz, and I'm going to be helping out a little bit. And
Oh
so I would
yeah.
love if you could share directly from you what this beautiful
Okay.
program is. Please tell us all about Dream Your Biz and how people can
Yeah,
find you and sign up.
of course. Okay, so this is coming out when? Friday?
This Friday, yeah.
Okay, this Friday. So, okay, so you'll have like a couple of days because we start October 1st, Tuesday, October 1st. I will definitely extend the date for, because technically doors close Thursday, but I will extend it for anyone who's listening to this podcast. But I created this program, Dream Your Biz, for the woman who wanted more passion, more fire, and more impact in her career. It's for someone who wants to build a coaching business. Um, Now, I'm a coach and I started with one-on-one. I run group programs. I have courses. I create curriculums. I do retreats. So it's not just like I'm going to become a coach and do private coaching. There's so many avenues to this industry, and to creating impact through serving people in this way. And so Dream Your Biz takes you, it's 12 weeks. We meet weekly for a live group coaching call. And then there's a portal with videos and worksheets, and it's all helping you build your business. So we have the business strategy. I help you with everything from, marketing, sales, your website, getting paid. And then I also teach you how to become a really transformational coach, how to lead coaching calls, how to create coaching experiences. And then we go into more scalable offers. There's basically everything in this program I've put in there that has helped me take my business from nothing to seven figures. And then the best part, I think one of the best parts is that Jessica, as part of this program, does a session with you where she calls in your business guides, and then your business guides help you with all the things that I just mentioned. So with the strategy, with the sales, with the naming, with everything, and we do this all in this beautiful, intimate group container. I love to keep it like around 10 to 15 people max. I kind of know based on the energy of the group when it's like a complete group. We're close. We're getting close. And so you have, a group of women who are building their businesses, scaling their businesses alongside of you that will hold you accountable, motivate you, inspire you, and then you have me coaching you along.
Yeah, yeah. And also I come in and do a little workshop as well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a few different guest experts that come in. Jessica is one of them and definitely the favorite. You come in towards the end and we do a workshop in connecting with your
With your
guides and your
yeah.
your intuition.
Yeah, and guys, it's so magical. Julie and I have been collaborating on this program a couple of times now. I think we've done it 2 or 3 times already where
Yeah.
I've been a part of your program.
Mhm.
And it's so crazy because I'll see most of her students kind of at the beginning of the program and their business guides kind of go, "All right, here's your business," right? Like
Yeah.
this is some of you were like, "I think I want to leave my job. I think I want to be a coach." And
Yeah.
then their guides are like, "No, no, no. This is the type of coach you're supposed to be. Here's the people you're supposed to serve. Here's the message you need to share.
Yeah.
Here's the podcast you're going to start, and here's your branding and your colors." Like the guides tell you everything, and then they can
Everything.
hit the ground running using Julia's strategies, right? So it's
It's
almost like
pretty
the
cool.
perfect combination between intuition and taking inspired action, right?
Yeah,
I
it's
love it.
it's so good. And again, you like I felt like the first couple of rounds that I didn't have you in, it was great, but bringing in the business guide piece, it like takes it to another level. It also connects the women in such a cool way too. And I'll just throw in one anecdote. I mean, there's so many that I could share about how profound it is when what your business guides will share. But when I was did a session and I was talking about this program, it was going to be called Dream Your Side Biz. And my business guide was like, nope, nope, it's going to be Dream Your Biz. And I was like, oh, interesting. And because my guide was like, through Jessica, said there's going to be a lot of women that come in that don't want to do this as a side thing. They want to do it as their full-time thing. And that's been like over 50% of the women have come in that are like, no, I'm going all in on this. I don't even have a corporate job. About 50% have a corporate job or something that they're doing, and started it on the side in the hopes of turning it into their full-time thing. But a lot have just like gone in and been like, no, I'm gonna put all my eggs in this basket, and I'm so excited.
Right. And some of them have turned it into their full-time thing,
Oh
right?
yeah, 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 many,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's really, really beautiful to see the transformations and to work with you guys. So we're definitely going to put the link in the show notes. But Julia, where can people go if they want to find out more about the program and connect with you? Tell us.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, anyone who comes through Jessica is going to get a very nice discount, but also I can jump on a call with anyone who is interested. I'm still doing that because again, I want it to be the right, I just want it to feel aligned both ways.
Yeah.
And so I'll be setting up 15-minute calls. If it's Friday and you're getting this, we can do it at some point before Tuesday. Um, but all the information is also on the website, which is dreamyourlifenow.com/DYB, as in Dream Your Biz.
And then when you're signing up, you get to use the code Spirit Guide, all caps, because you're coming
Yeah.
through me for 20% off the program. So, guys, definitely go and check it out. All the links will be in the show notes. And this has been so beautiful. Thank you so much, Julia,
Thank
for
you,
coming. We really
Jessica.
loved having you here,
Oh,
and I hope
I
that you'll
loved
be
it
back
too.
on the show.
Oh yeah, definitely. This is so fun. I appreciate you so much. And as always, just could talk to you forever and ever and ever.
I know our conversations always go for so long. It's
I know.
beautiful now.
I
It's
know.
amazing.
I know. Oh, I love
Amazing.
it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Jessica.